All right, we're going to quickly move through three topics, units 15, 16, and 17 in your study guides, and they involve water movement through a plant and mineral nutrition. First of all, diffusion, osmosis, and imbibition. What's illustrated here in this picture from your textbook? Diffusion, yes, diffusion. What's diffusion involve? Differences in concentration. And so we have blue round things diffusing to the left, purple round things diffusing to the right, both of them diffusing from a region of what? Higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. Would we say diffusion is occurring in this last picture? No, we would not. And why would we say diffusion is not occurring? Because what is represented here? What is represented is equilibrium. In other words, the concentration is what? It's the same everywhere, equal concentration everywhere. If concentration is equal everywhere, there is no higher to lower concentration going to happen. Every concentration is the same. Same type of thing illustrated by this picture from your, well, it's from the general biology textbook. A drop of food coloring dropped in a beaker of water, highly concentrated, in the drop, initial drop of food coloring, low concentration, no concentration in the water surrounding, and the food coloring starts diffusing outward from a region of higher concentration to lower until it's evenly distributed. And so would we say in this case that diffusion was occurring in this last picture? No, we would not. No, we would not, because why? Why? Because the concentration is what? It's the same everywhere. Again, diffusion operates based on differences in what? Concentration. Molecules diffuse from what? A region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. What's next? Oh, it's still diffusion, but a very special kind of diffusion. Special kind of diffusion called what? Ah, yes, osmosis. Now, how is this different? Well, it involves in particular water, and that water is diffusing through something. Through what? A semi-permeable membrane. Where is a semi-permeable membrane in this picture? Everywhere around this central vacuole, forming the various parts of chloroplast, and then the one that's just inside the cell wall. What's that called? The plasma membrane. And so that is life's semi-permeable membrane. The semi-permeable membrane of life is that plasma membrane and all the other membranes that are put together the same way. And so osmosis again is what? Diffusion of water through a semi-permeable membrane. What's happening here? Oh my goodness, water's diffusing outward. Why would it do that? Because the concentration of water is higher where? Inside than outside. How did we do this in lab? We added what to around the cell? Salt water, yes, lowered the water concentration outside. What is this boundary around this shriveled up part of the cell? The good old plasma membrane that is pulled away from the cell wall, yes. And so water is diffusing outward. And so you say diffusing, what is it? I thought it's osmosing. Unfortunately, no verb for osmosis, so we have to say diffusing. But this is osmosis, a special kind of diffusion. And so here we have Eladia cells. We worked with those in one of the labs, one of the early labs. Are these happy Eladia cells or not happy? Well, these are happy. The chloroplasts are distributed throughout. Happy or unhappy? Ooh, they're kind of unhappy now for sure. They're hydrated or dehydrated? Dehydrated. What's the boundary around this shriveled up part? The plasma membrane, yeah. And it surely is. And what did we do to induce this situation? Added salt water around the Eladia cells, which did what? Lowered the water concentration outside, so the water diffused outward. Again, is this osmosis? Yes. What is osmosis? The passage of water through a semi-permeable membrane. Then we have this strange thing called imbibition. This picture from your book illustrates imbibition. What are these up here at the top? Dry seeds, just dry, just straight out of the seed package. But these down here have been soaked for a while, and they have swelled to many times their original size. This is what happens when seeds begin germinating. What caused this? Something called imbibition. Say, well, professor, that's probably just, osmosis or diffusion or something. No, there's something different about it, and you looked it up in class. You saw, you looked it up in your book. You wrote descriptions. You did very well, very, very, very well, most of you, and you came up with something like what? Well, here's an example, a picture of your book of imbibition, which is that just for living material? No, it can happen to dead material as well, such as the wooden door in your house, which sticks after it rains. But what's going on with imbibition? Something more than just simple concentration. We got electricity going on. Large organic molecules. This is my little summary of what's in the book. Organic molecules are the molecules of life, and whether living or dead. They usually develop electrical charges when they're wet. Water molecules are polar. They have slightly different electrical charges at each end. Because of this, we got the phenomenon here that results in the swelling of seeds. Say, Professor, am I going to have to come up with all that if we have that question of the test? Well, I'd expect quite a bit of it. I expect you to understand what imbibition is. All right, then transpiration. What's that? Well, it's a passage of water through a plant. Is this a one-way street, two-way street, or some other kind of street? Yeah, you're right, just a one-way street. Up and out. Water comes out of the soil, up through the stem, out through the openings on the leaves. What are those openings called again? Stomata. Here we see water coating the inside of this bell jar. And so, how does this work? Is it a push or a pull? Push from the bottom or pull from the top? Yes, it's a pull from the top, starting with, it says water evaporating through stomata. Don't like that, evaporating. I would prefer, I mean, that's not too bad a term, but it's really water diffusing outward. And so why would it diffuse outward? Because the water concentration is higher where? Inside or outside? Inside. Diffuses outward. But then what happens? Well, it dries out, and the water in these all these air spaces are replaced by water from the cells. Again, diffusion. And then that water is replaced by water coming up the xylem, which is replaced, water molecules cling to each other, and finally we have diffusion through the root hairs and so forth. But it's a pull from the top, starting with water diffusing or evaporating through the stomata. All right, that is transpiration. Dries out the soil. If it doesn't rain for a long time, dries it out big time during various parts of the growing season. All right, finally, mineral nutrition. We have this chart in your book, and it's got 18 different minerals on it. Wow. You're going to have to memorize all those? No, actually not. In fact is, 3 of these, the first 3, C, H, and O, they don't have to come in through the soil. How does a plant get carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen? It gets it through photosynthesis. Photosynthesis manufactures something we talked about when we did our photosynthesis experiments. What is that? Photosynthesis manufactures glucose. What's glucose? C6H12O6. And so glucose produced by photosynthesis is how carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen get into a plant. But what about these others? Well, there are 2 categories here. There are macronutrients and micronutrients. I want you to simply know the 4 macronutrients. What's the difference? Well, macronutrients are needed in fairly large quantities, and I mean certainly compared to the micronutrients. So are the macronutrients the next 4? Almost, but not quite. Leave out sulfur. You have phosphorus, potassium, nitrogen, and calcium. Those are the macronutrients needed in relatively large quantities by the plant. And how do they get inside the plant? They are absorbed from the soil. They come in dissolved in the water that diffuses into the root hairs. And so, final picture. Wow, what do we got? We got some bad-looking leaves in some cases. Actually, one of them looks pretty good. This one right here. Why is this one? These look so good? Because they received what? All of the above. All the macronutrients and the micronutrients. All of these here had some type of deficiency, and they were missing one or more of the macronutrients or perhaps the micronutrients. Do you need to know Which one's which? Certainly not. But you do need to know a little bit from this particular chart. What? First three are, how does a plant get CH&O for its various molecules? Through photosynthesis, which produces what? Glucose. And then the rest are either macro or micronutrients. And which are the macro? Again, phosphorus, potassium, nitrogen, and calcium. All right, that's this one. That's it for this one, folks. Bye-bye.